and welcome to another ACCE Learning Network Hangout for 2015. G'day, Amanda.
G'day, Roland.
It's a place where we can connect the network of our PLN and share our learning and teaching adventures.
And as usual, if you're joining us live, you can post a question at todaysmeet.com/ACCELN, or on Twitter you can use the hashtag ACCELN.
And I'm Roland Guesthausen, high school teacher, e-learning leader in Victoria, Australia. I'm also on the DLTV, and I'm weaving my way between Scout game show rehearsals, group leader meetings, and Scout camps, and have my woggle and I will hike. Today, Amanda, I've been actually busy with school sports, and I was lucky it was raining in Melbourne, as happens occasionally, and I was sitting in the first aid room, chatting to all the other teachers, catching up with my marking. But best of all, you know how kids often, when they're at school sports, have various costumes to represent the colours. We use colours for our houses. We went for a stage when we had all of these bodysuits that came out of nowhere. Well, they now have these giant inflatable sumo suits that just filled up the room. And you've got to imagine these 2-metre wide students just sort of puffing into existence and sort of standing around like giant 10-pin bowling balls. It was hilarious. Now, I'll try and share some photographs in my Twitter feed. Kids had a ball. I enjoyed it, and there was a face-off between the anonymous chap and Captain America and the Hulk. Anyway, good fun.
Yes, you do, I guess. Hey, speaking of weaving, my latest hobby adventure in craft was weaving a rug for my mother for her birthday, and then I had to make an Elsa and Anna cake for her, and that tied in well with programming my robot for my lesson.
I'd love to see it. Have you got something to show us?
Unfortunately, I don't have my robot with me. I did program it, though, to sing and dance to Let It Go, of course. I even have a snowflake cape as well, which is very cool. And
lovely.
I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Amanda Rablin. I'm an e-learning coordinator and digital tech teacher in Brisbane, and also a proud QSite member. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I've been programming with my little robot, and I've been spending some time at a workshop with Gary Stager trying to work out, and he's very big into these maker spaces, and awesome workshop with him, trying to get my head around Arduino chips. And it just so happens that one of my guests and friends, Mark, who's joined us, I believe, from WA, and I'm hoping I can pick your brain afterwards, Mark, about Arduino programming. I've got to get this little robot car to work, and I'm hoping you can get on board to help us out with that. But we're not talking about robots for the weaving tonight, because we're weaving into something much more special, aren't we, Amanda?
Yes, or diving, in fact. Hey, let's meet who's on our panel this evening or tonight. And how about we start with the lovely Annabelle, one of our very special guests this evening.
Thanks, guys. Hi, everyone. I'm Annabelle Astbury. I'm the head of digital education at the ABC, and I help run a great website, ABC Splash. So hopefully you've heard of it, or if you're just tuning in and you're trying to find out all about it, hopefully we'll cover all that tonight.
Looking forward to learning about it. It's going to be fun. And Dr. Jason Zagami.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason, and I work at Griffith University on the Gold Coast, where I prepare new teachers with all things to do with educational technologies.
Fabulous. And Mark Webber.
Actually, it's Weaver. I'm from.
My apologies.
I was a number at one stage, but I've recently retired from education and just sort of stay at home playing with my little Arduino and things associated with it.
That sounds like awesome fun. I'm looking forward to that point. I think I've got a few more years of having to work, though. Oh.
Okay.
Mark, we've got to get you to write up some of these tools, and I'd love to see what you think about some of the stuff on the ABC Splash site, because we dreamed about this 20 years ago, being able to share education digital content, and it's great that it's part of the even bigger agenda of what we're doing on the ABC and around the world.
The famous Martin Dugiamias is a West Australian, and he was the guy that sort of invented Moodle. and as a result, I've been sharing stuff on my Moodle site for probably the best part of 5 or 6 years. It's numbacconspiracy.com.
It is, and we had the idea that all resources should be free. They shouldn't be locked up behind paywalls. We shouldn't have to sort of bow on one knee. But teachers do good stuff, and often it's just a matter of showcasing those stories, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that some of the ideas we can talk about tonight might spark some discussion and curiosity among some of the listeners. And if you're even watching this as an archive, I hope you get a chance to maybe post some questions and we can sort of follow up later. Things you might be looking for or ideas for projects that you think should be there.
Yeah, we're always very open to receiving ideas, particularly from teachers and sometimes students. We're always open to hearing from students, but mostly it's the teachers who are getting in touch with us. So we would really love to hear your ideas. So you can always, include it in the chat tonight, or you can always contact us after the Hangout.
Thank you. So I might start by asking anyone who's watching or even listening, point your browser at www.abc.net.au/splash. So Annabelle, tell us, what is Splash all about?
So Splash is, in one sense, a digital education portal. Basically, we're a huge repository with now over 3,000 resources that are mapped to the Australian curriculum. And the variety of those resources is very wide. So the majority of our content is video content. Most of that comes from, a good chunk of that comes from the ABC archive, so from very sort of contemporary sort of news content that may have been broadcast and that is relevant and can be mapped to the Australian curriculum, but also material that comes, much older material, so some of your favourite shows from the ABC in the past. We've got clips up there, on the proviso that they do map to the curriculum. We've got this other exciting part of the website where we've been able to experiment in creating some really great digital interactive material that sort of really sort of showcases, I guess, the potential that this medium can do to transform education. So we've been able to make some really fantastic, engaging games for the classroom. Particularly with the student in mind. We've experimented and had great success with a series of live programming broadcasting events where everybody around every school around Australia could join in the chat and have the opportunity to ask whoever, whatever expert we had in that week. Really huge audience and a huge success. And we've also got lots of sort of teacher resources as well, so teaching guides. We've also partnered with museums, libraries, galleries, museums to bring some of their best content to the site as well.
Great. Where should we start? I'm going to dive in here.
Yeah, please, you can make a start, or if anybody's got a question. I've just noticed tonight, just on social media, there's one common question I get about Splash is it free? Do I have to pay a subscription? And you don't. It's all of the resources are free and can be used by all Australian, teachers, students, their parents, their families. Everybody can access it, and you don't need a login. You can just use it straight away and look for the material that you need. So that's, I guess that's sort of important to say up front because it's a common question, and sometimes I think I take it for granted that people should know that it's free and it's for their use, and we know that they're using it, but it's really important for people to know that.
Annabelle, what is the MySplash and login process for then? Is it just bookmarking or another purpose?
Yeah, so you can use the MySplash function, which is actually just going undergoing a little facelift as we speak. But if you want to favourite material that you see on the site, if you want to organise it according to subject area, or arrange that in folders, create a playlist, that's what that My Splash function is for. And what we're hoping to do over the next few months is add some more adaptability for that function, so teachers in particular can adapt some of the material that we've got on the site and to be able to personalise their own lessons using the material that we've got on the site. So at the moment, you can sign up either as a teacher or a student, whether you're over 13 or under 13. The experience is a little bit different. For if you're under 13, students can sort of categorise their material in there, but they can't share it via social media because there are a few complications there, as you would be well aware. But if you're over 13, and that's really 90% of our users for this particular function, you have the ability to share all of that via social media, and you can create an account with My ABC, and that's an ID system to use in the future across all ABC sites. So you have a single sign-on for all ABC products and services, and that's slowly being rolled out across the corporation. Or you can just sign up using Facebook or your Twitter profile as well, and that's what I tend to do each time that I log into that particular function. It's the easiest to me.
So do you know if it's been more students or more children or more teachers actually using this site? I know that you can navigate the site to say what year level you're in or that you're a teacher. Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, so what we've learned, when the project started 3 years ago, we knew that teachers, particularly in the first 12 months, were going to be instrumental in driving the usage of the site and making students aware of it. I think that sort of continued on 3 years down the track. We know that teachers are the first, I guess, audience group who are using the site, and then exposing and uncovering all of that material for their students. What we do know is that the highest usage is during the school day, between 9 and 3:30, with particular peaks at during the school day, and we know that there's not as much activity on at the weekend, and that kind of sort of echoes what we know about sort of the users, that they're at school. And we also know that the way that teachers are using it in the classroom, they're using it on a big screen or on an interactive whiteboard and showing it to 30 students at a time. I was just in my daughter's classroom the other day, and I walked in, and they've got this a giant screen. They don't have many other devices, but that's sort of the main sort of delivery of the content.
That actually indicates that the place that it has is real, and it's in the classroom, and it's in the learning engine of the way that we currently work. It isn't as if some crawlers or the odd teacher with a spare period is browsing to see what they can nick for their lesson, but they're actually deeply embedding perhaps the activities that you have in the classroom learning experience. It doesn't happen all that often, Annabelle.
Yeah. I think what's really surprising, I think when I first started with this project, I thought, oh, this is an amazing opportunity to so dramatically and drastically change, I guess, teaching in Australia as well as providing teachers and students with great resources. But it was going to be a way to sort of transform what's actually happening in the classroom. And I may have been a little bit overly ambitious with that thought. But what I have noticed is that we've got teachers now who perhaps never would have shown a video in a classroom, who perhaps never would have used YouTube even, to show a video in the classroom, but they've got access to these resources now, and they are using this other digital media in the classroom and making and integrating it. I think that's the important point, that they're integrating this. It's not just this sort of fripperies or add-on to their teaching and learning practice. So they're actually embedding this into their everyday teaching and learning. So The other thing that I have noticed as well is that teachers over the last 3 years have started to feel much more comfortable with the idea of games or interactives. I would say that the type of content that we have, the majority are small interactives, but they're much more comfortable with using them and not feeling like they have to justify the use of those, that they're not just used as a reward. Once again, they're used as an integral part of their teaching and learning.
I'm going to just show something here. I hope this comes up on your screen. This is my senior IT class, and we were watching a activity that we're running, Annabelle. I believe this one was about the games that we play, and you're making use of some of the other ABC resources. You can see in the background the projector there with the guests and the show host. My kids were engaged on a couple of different levels. One, that you were talking about something that they were doing in the classroom, like people actually talk about this. It's not just Mr. G talking about game programming. They recognise some of the presenters there. But then on another level too, I've tweeted this photograph. You managed to engage with it, and also threw back a question, a challenge, and then a competition. So this was buzzing around in their heads for almost 2 weeks. I know it's just a photograph, but the idea that we could engage with the topic and then have some feedback from you, and that the views that the kids had were authentic and real and worth listening to. It gave them a voice, I guess, we don't normally have in a classroom.
That's right. And I think the really amazing, we ran 10 of those events, and you can still access the archive of all of those events on the website. So just from the home page, if you click on the third box, which is join in, you can access all of the previous events and the current competitions that we've got. But I think what we got better as we ran 10 of those over about a 14-month period, and we got better because we started to understand how the audience was actually interacting with us. At first we thought it was going to be a much more fluid sort of process, and that wasn't the case, because what we soon learned is that, like in your classroom, Roland, people were watching en masse. Like, they weren't watching singularly with their own devices, or from their phone, or from their iPad, or from whatever tablet they had. They were watching it as a group and participating as a group. And one thing that we did learn is that, how do we continue the engagement and make it meaningful, so that it's not just a closed event. We just have one event with some experts where students can ask questions and then they sort of move on. How do we, sort of continue the conversation after the event? And I think with that particular one too, that was one of our really popular and most watched live events, and most participated in live events. We used the guys Bajo and Hex from Good Game, so that was a really popular draw card with the young people in the audience, and we had young students with us in the studio, but also the participation from across Australia. And we also were able to cross over, not just have it primary school students, but we had secondary school students as well. So it was a really nice conversation that was happening. And and as I was saying, just as what we were learning as we were running those events, is that it was just important to have as many voices and young voices sort of coming in there. So in that particular episode, I remember we had some young game designers. We had a young student who was in, I think, grade 5 at the time, who was, programming and coding his own games. So it was,
He's incredible.
Wonderful. Yeah, he's amazing.
It was inspirational to hear from him, and the sophistication of his language and talking through what he was making was really cool.
Yeah, and his parents were just so supportive and great as well. Yeah.
It looks so fresh. I mean, crikey, I'm recycling my old worksheets from 3, 4, 5 years ago. How do you keep it up to date and current? You must have a good team that sort of keeps generating this content.
They're amazing, amazing team. Especially at the end of last year, look, we did realise, I think there were some parts of the site that weren't as user-friendly, I guess, or that weren't as easy to navigate around. And what we tried to do at the end of last year, and what we released at the very, very end of last year, was this new look and feel of the website. So we've got this really great development team. I had a great sort of few producers who were helping, source the work and produce the work, who are just, amazing, and a terrific such a knowledgeable content team who were able to sort of, sift through, the millions of pieces of content, or be aware of what's out there and what might be useful for the site. So yeah, they really are great. So we try to also really respond quickly to the audience as well, and all throughout the design process and the way that we sort of develop the site, we always test with the users, because if it's not working for them, it's not just what we think works. So, and we've had really positive feedback as well. So on the new design and the new look and feel. So that's really great.
So how does the development process go with the games and little interactives that you mentioned? How does that idea start, and how do you develop it over time?
Yeah, so there's sort of two approaches, because part of the funding arrangement that we had with the federal government was to engage with the local games community and to produce educational games. And so we did sort of open call outs, and people from the education sector, from the cultural sector, from the game making sector, from the digital industry, wider digital industry sector, all joined, submitted, ideas for, consideration. And a handful of those applications were successful and developed into content, and as a result of that, we worked sort of in tandem with Education Services Australia, who are our key partner on this project, with the ABC and with the content provider, whether that was someone from a digital agency, from a game shop, an educator or cultural institution, to shape and form that content for the site.
That sounds to be perhaps a secret, that you don't try to reinvent the wheel, that you work with stakeholders in education, good organisations like ESA, Education Service Australia, and you mentioned too some of the different groups that actually involved with the game programming. That must obviously give you the right sort of tillage in being able to steer the line that teachers are expecting you to have with relevant material.
Yeah, I think one thing that we learned, and one thing that I realised very early on, is that you needed that sort of even-handed collaboration between the types of people who had the skills. Because, sorry, let me go back a step. Is that with educational games or interactives, you've got digital producers and digital production houses who are very skilled in what they do and what they can produce, but they don't have the background in education. And then on the other hand, you've got people who've got very strong backgrounds in education, but might not necessarily have the digital production skills. So it's about marrying those two groups together, so that you get a nice product at the end, because just working solely with one group is not going to work. So I think the products that we've come up with, they sort of do try to sort of reflect that.
That must be a real challenge. Sorry, Jason. Sorry.
Annabelle, is there much integration with the rest of the ABC programming? I'm just thinking of shows like Behind the News or other topical shows, particularly say things around Gallipoli at the moment. Is there much sort of integration with what else is happening in the ABC with Splash?
Yeah, what we try to do is with anything that's happening around the ABC, and if it has some sort of potential, educational purpose or things that we think students and teachers are going to be interested in, we try to get that content on the site. So, for example, you will notice that we have a lot of behind the news clips that are on the site. That are segments of behind the news. We also like Gallipoli is a really good example. Just yesterday, the Department of Veterans Affairs and the ABC announced that they have released Gallipoli the First Day as a tablet app. Now, Gallipoli the First Day was an award-winning program that was made back in 2009, I think, and it was sort of well, extremely cutting edge at the time because it used all these 3D modelling and interactives to present the story of the landing at Gallipoli in 1915. That's been reimagined and added to and enhanced for a tablet experience. Now we've got that content, we've been able to draw that into the site or so that teachers have access to that sort of material and all of the teaching resources that go with it as well. It's just it's also, I think, the eye opener. Like, I mean, my background, I worked in the not-for-profit sector with various teaching associations, and I think the amazing thing is to realise the breadth of material that is available and produced on the ABC each week, and it is just amazing. There's something new every day that you discover by just talking to somebody in the office. Oh, did you know that so and so was working on X project? And a lot of that material has educational application.
I have to ask this question. I have this image of a very old green screen terminal and a librarian with horn-rimmed glasses who says, "What are you looking for, Annabelle?" and types it in. And then you take the slip of paper down to the bowels where you'll find these huge stainless steel film reels where you have to sort of borrow them and then take them up to an 18mm projector and then sort of wind it forward. Or is it actually high-tech and digital like the rest of the world, perhaps?
Well, the corporation is working to digitise a lot of its content, but of course there's a lot of its content that isn't, and it is housed off-site. But we've got a very good sort of cataloguing system as well, and so the content team to whom I was referring before are able to sort of look at that, like the various databases that we've got to see if there's going to be content there that's going to be useful. But I think in the first couple of years of the project, they had a very good scour of the archive before 1980 to see what could be used or perhaps of interest to teachers and students for the Australian curriculum.
I shouldn't make light of it. I'm actually impressed with the way you're able to whip together all the material with Malcolm Fraser so quickly from that archive. So you're doing the right sort of things. And the science stuff is awesome when you keep digging it out. I wonder, Lynn had a really good question, and perhaps I could leave it to her to ask, regarding internet access at Australian schools. And Lynn is one of our panel members who's joined us from overseas. Lynn.
Hi, good evening all. And
hi, Lynn.
Hi. I'm so glad to be here because I'm very interested in games to do in classroom in order to bring my students to engage into language learning. And recently we have played a lot of Kahoot. Yeah, so I'm very interested in such kind of issues of how to engage games or activities into our learning in the classroom. And sometimes maybe we can also collaborate with other classrooms in other countries to play together. So I'm wondering if the internet access will be enough for almost every schools, primary schools in Australia. Is it smooth enough for students to bring their smartphones or tablets to the classroom to use all together? Because here in Taiwan, if every student brings their smartphone or tablets here to the classroom, first we have to get the agreement from parents, and second we have to get agreement from our administration office, and the third we have to get the agreement from their homeroom teachers. But in my school, there's only a little problem, but for most of the schools, they are still arguing whether they should bring their smartphones so many to school. So is it smooth enough for the internet access for all students to engage in the classroom in Australia?
Yeah, Lily is such a hot topic here in Australia at the moment because, of course, well, I don't think it's only just Australia. I think it's worldwide as well about what sort of internet access is realistically needed for for want of a better term, is used for 21st century learning. So at the moment, I do believe that it varies from school to school and from sector to sector, and also because of the sort of vastly different geographic nature of Australia. You know, to make sure all those students, even in remote areas, have access. So I don't have, like, there might be other people here on the panel who are a bit averse, but my understanding is that I think generally, I think teachers would like better internet access within the classroom, and hopefully with the rollout with, you know, faster, higher speed broadband, perhaps that might be sort of remedied. But I think my belief is that it does differ from school to school and between sector to sector.
We're certainly heading down that route. Yeah, I remember the time when we were struggling to get one computer into every classroom and connect the classrooms, and now I reckon we've gone well past the threshold of one-to-one in Australia, I believe, in many schools. We're now approaching what I call a tri-screen environment, Amanda, where I'm now looking at how to connect up all the devices that the kids have. I don't believe they can use them all at once, but there has to be that fluidity being able to move through. And Mark is actually on the next pioneering. I believe you're at the stage now where the kids actually build their own computers. Okay, that as well, Mark? He's tinkering with his Raspberry Pi.
That's too loud. Can you hear me?
Sound good.
No, I don't have kids build machines. I have them take them apart. I volunteer at. Remember Leanne Roland? I volunteer at her school, and we play with Arduinos. And one of the things we did was just pull some machines to bits, but we're not building them at this stage. They couldn't get them back together again. That's okay.
We've now got a name for that, Mark. That's called a makerspace, and I like how you've turned your house into a bit of a makerspace since you've retired, and continue that maker culture and reinventing.
Just this room gets me into trouble, but there it is.
And as a current topic where we're actually creating these flexible spaces, that also demands that we come up with flexible learning styles. Something that Gary Steger was at pains to impress upon me. Building on some of the work by Seymour Papert and constructivism. Annabelle, how do you cope with trying to weave that pedagogy of learning into a site like ABC Splash so that you can cater for the different learning styles by students? I guess it's more than just putting the content up there and the resources.
Yeah, I think, look, I think the primary focus of Splash is to provide the content and perhaps not so much dictate how that is going to be adapted or how it's going to be used. But the other way that we can do that is by modelling and by demonstrating. And we've got a news and article sections where we have various people from various parts of the education sector you know, write on a variety of topics, and that might be to do with either differentiated learning or a variety of themes that are sort of presented there. So that's one way we try to do it. And I think the live shows that we did, even though in some ways, you know, there are people who have been doing live hangouts or something like this, you know, for years, but there are the vast majority of people are still not sort of willing, or not, it's not so much willing, haven't experimented enough with the potential of the technology and what it can do and how it can transform learning within the classroom environment. So I think Splash is that nice sort of stepping stone for, you know, people to start experimenting. And I always argue that Splash is not the one-stop shop for all of your education needs. I think that would be a very different and difficult site to navigate. We want Splash to be able to provide parents and to provide teachers and to provide students with, you know, high-quality Australian content, you know, that is matched to the curriculum, and experiences that are matched to that as well. What we don't want to do is to say, okay, as an educator, you come here and you don't go anywhere else, because in a digital world, that's nonsensical, really, when you think about it.
So you've got, yeah, sorry, Jason?
We won't tell Education Services Australia.
Pardon?
We won't tell Education Services Australia that there's going to be a one-stop shop.
Oh, well, no, well, I think to be fair to ESA, like, I mean, they know that there are many, many options that are open to lots of Australian students and teachers.
Annabelle, if there are organisations or individual teachers that have resources that they've created, video-based resources, is there a way for those resources to be shared through Splash?
Yeah, not at this present moment. The way that we've been had a lot of success engaging the community is really with a student focus. So through our competitions, so through that section from the main page from Join In, you can see competitions and previous galleries of a body of work of what students have been doing. So that's the way that we've been trying to sort of get that engagement. But at the present moment, what teachers have been specifically doing, we haven't sort of made big call outs. One thing that we have done, we started to expand the repertoire of content that we've got regarding science, technology, engineering and maths at the end of last year, and we did go out into schools to see what people, teachers and communities, school communities were doing in the areas of STEM. So we went out to a couple of schools in New South Wales where there was a STEM club, a coding club, to see what the teachers and the volunteer parents were doing in that area.
So I thought I'd have a quick poke around here. So we go for STEM. I'm in year, actually I'm a teacher, so I'll go in for find resources here. Need resources on STEM.
I wish I could see your user journey, Roland. Use it as a bit of user testing.
Here we go. This is a bit of live testing here on Splash. And I notice you can also pin it down for the particular year levels here or the different areas. 251 results. That's not bad for a new topic. Well done.
Yeah, so we got a lot of new content. We also went and filmed the RoboCup, the Junior RoboCup at the University of New South Wales last year, and we got some really great footage from that, from students and their particular entries with crazy, wacky dancing robots and
I think I need to use that in my class tomorrow.
Yes. and just wee little kids there explaining how they can program their robot to do that. And I know a lot of that stuff is some of the entry level things, but it's amazing the enthusiasm and engagement from these students in that particular topic.
That's wonderful. I'm beginning to wonder too that there's probably some scope for parents to actually start to have a look at exploring ABC Splash. If you're looking for some resource material for a project or some inspiration for something, that could be a good place for them to start. It does seem very friendly and easy for them to work through.
Yeah, we tried to make it, we know that look, parents, particularly parents and teachers, really want to have the quickest sort of access to resources. So usually I will use maths as an example. I want to help my student or my child with, they're in year 3 and they need maths. What are things that are going to help them with maths or engage them with maths? So but the navigation that we've got is sort of been quite successful in being able to direct the user to the relevant material that is there. And the articles, the news and articles as well is useful for parents. So we've always got really good response from things like, those very popular topics that are fond to parents' hearts, like reading. And we haven't done one on times tables yet. I must get onto that.
Handwriting?
Handwriting. Oh, handwriting. That's like a gold mine. So,
I should explain to Lin that Australia is actually still struggling to come to terms with a handwriting standard, and I believe Victoria and Queensland are sort of at each other's throats as to how to curl the various letters.
It's so true. I was listening to my daughter who is 8, who is just starting to learn cursive writing, but she was sort of saying to me, "Oh, I don't really understand this." So It was a fairly sort of accurate query.
I think we're all struggling.
Legibility is great.
It is. It is. And handwriting still has a place, I guess, in the school in the sense that we are looking so many different ways of being able to mash and create an input, but which handwriting is a part of that literacy. The community for educators, there must be now a sizable group of people who are now using it, and you must be, I guess, looking forward over the next year or two, thinking about ways of bringing that community together and being able to look at ways that they can share and contribute and work with things.
Yeah, look, we're at a really exciting stage where we are sort of planning or hoping that Splash can have a even bigger and brighter future ahead of us, and we've got some really great plans in store if we're able to sort of continue with that. So we're just at the end, Splash was a productivity trial project that was an initiative by the federal government. The trial officially ended at the end of last year, but of course we've built up such a fantastic resource. We're just sort of planning the future for that currently, just as we speak. So we've got some really great ideas, and I think to build upon the community and to expand that community even more is sort of a key focal point of that. I just think it's just got so much potential, and especially when practice is changing. Like, I mean, as I said before, like 3 years ago, I sort of imagined this, non-worksheet nirvana that was going to exist in 2015, and we're not quite there yet. And some worksheets have their place, and I take that on board as well. But what we have seen is that teachers' practice is changing by integrating and meaningfully integrating digital resources into their teaching and learning programs.
Thank you. And I'm wondering if any of our listeners would like to post any questions. I'll be more than happy to read them out. We have a chat room on todaysmeet.com/ACCELN. I just apologise that we've had to switch links here, and the daylight saving was just doing my head in at the moment. But that kind of happens, and I can work through it. It's good to see some of the questions have been posted in the events page on our webcast, so I'll read one of them out. I had a note posted by one person here about the way that they're using it. They're an iPad school. Their students are able to access all the resources except the interactive ones, and some positive feedback that's really expanded since I've last looked. And that must be a real challenge for you, because not only you have to deal with different speeds and bandwidth, you've also got these different devices and having to cater for all these different groups. You're going to have to make some compromises, but you can't make it so bland that it's going to work on old phones.
So a couple of exciting things. First of all, just in regards to, I did see that question before, and I'm glad that you've brought it up. Somebody said that, a lot of those games that we've got in the small interactives that were sort of that legacy, some of those legacy items from the old Learning Federation content were made in Flash, and of course they don't play on iPads. But I hope people are aware that ESA have put an ESA app for school on looking at their most popular games, so that those most popular games can be used on an iPad. So I'll just I will post the link. I've got all the links for all of this material. I'll just post it in our personal chat here, but that's one way to be able to access all of that great content on via an iPad. We've also just released, and if you do look in the App Store, you can see 2 new apps from ABC Splash, where we've curated some of the most popular topic content from Splash, for a primary school app. So it's a Best of Splash Primary, Best of Splash Secondary, and each app has 10 topics, our most popular topics, with 5 videos in each topic. And we're sort of adding a quiz functionality very shortly for that content. So that's another sort of quick and easy way to access some of the Splash content. And all of our new games that we've made for Splash, including QED, which is a Roman history game, Choose Your Own Statistics, which is some beautiful data visualization of human rights statistics, DJ Decibel, which is a maths game, a new game that we just released yesterday called Gobbling Goblins, are all available across all devices, so iPads and other tablets, non-iOS tablets.
There's more than just iPads? Amazing.
I know, amazing, although we do know that a lot of people use iPads.
Mark's asked a good question about some retro games, and I know that's something I've lined up with a future episode, looking at some of the old retro games. And so blow the dust off those old Sinclairs, mate, because we're going to have a special show lined up with the ACCE Learning Network. We can start to play Pong on the screen. I'm sure Jason's got a couple on his shelf behind we can bring to life. You know what? Talking of history, Annabelle, and I guess I'm kind of winding up a little bit now. If we consider that this has only been possible for two reasons. One is the enormous history of the ABC of just generating content and carefully having it curated by someone like you. That seems to be the secret, that you've got a team of people who are able to look at that, look for opportunities to draw that into new learning opportunities and remash it in a way that couldn't be done easily by any teacher in the classroom, but certainly made it very accessible.
Yeah.
I think we're very lucky for both that reason, you know, for the history of the ABC and also having your team curate and apply and adapt and turn it into the teaching material it needs to be for a classroom.
Yeah, and I think having a team at the ABC who are flexible in that we can respond fairly quickly to the audience as well. So, for example, we've got this, you know, amazing sort of archive, but we know that not everybody is going to be engaged by that particular content. So content in the classroom and whether it's engaging does actually matter, because believe it or not, you know, 13-year-olds may not be interested in that clip from This Day Tonight from 1967, strange as it may be. But I know that sort of does depend upon the teacher in the classroom and how they bring that clip alive and how they make that particular clip engaging. But content and the engagement of that content really does matter. And I think we've had a great team, and we've got a great team who are able to sort of, you know, respond to that and to be able to make really good judgments about some of that content.
I think I might start a wrap, and I'll start from left to right, and I'll finish with you.
Do you want me
Annabelle.
to beatbox for your rap? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it. So, Amanda, if you could help me out, because I'll explain why later, just with the wrap.
I'm confused. Are we just doing our normal get everyone to
Yes.
say their few minutes of reflection?
If we can.
Okay. All right, cool. So we always do this alphabetically by first name, so I'm sorry, Annabelle. You have to reflect on the conversation first.
Well, once again, I feel like I've talked too much. I just thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk with your audience as well. And if it's okay, I'd really love to share just a general presentation that I made at EdFest that was run by Lee Murphy from ESA at the beginning of this year, and all of some of the key sort of entry points and variety of content that we've got on the site, so people can sort of have sort of quick access to that. But thanks, guys. It's been really great. I've loved it.
Thank you. Jason.
Well, it's great the ABC's putting resources into doing this, and the wonderful resource that Splash has created so far. But I'd really like to challenge the ABC, and Annabelle as part of that, to really rise to the standard of what the BBC is doing, and maybe even get access to some of the great BBC resources and incorporate that into what we can have access here in Australia, because a lot of that is hidden away from overseas audiences. But even more challenging is the fact that the BBC just gave computers to every Year 9 student in UK, and I think that would be a great challenge for Australia to replicate through the ABC.
And when you magic up the budget for that, I'm sure we'll all be able to do it.
We're all around
good
to
talent.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Nothing like some inspiration. Thank you, Jason.
We can't let the UK beat us down.
No,
Totally.
and just by the way, we do have a lot of BBC clips. We've licensed a lot of BBC clips, so we've got some of
Fabulous.
that content on there as well.
Oh, good.
It's great to hear. And Lin.
Hi, everyone. I think it's a privilege for English teachers here in Taiwan to use such great platform to engage students into very exciting games to learn. There still are many teachers in Taiwan. They don't do a lot of activities by means of technology. Yeah, we only use overhead projector and put the content of the textbooks and project it on the screen. But we sort of lacking of interactive learnings. So from recent days, I start to use a lot of online games of learning and into my classroom in order to motivate my students in learning a foreign language. It looks very attractive to learn. Yeah, and still I'm trying to look for some good platforms such as this one you mentioned, ABC Splash. I think I will have a look on it and try to figure out what I can use this for my students. And thank you for your introduction.
Thank you very much, Lin.
Thank you.
And Mark. No. Try your audio, mate. I think he's pulled his microphone out. Probably still disassembling his computer. I'll have to put some words in his lips in a few moments, so sign language is fun. Mark's now reassembling his condenser microphone after having pulled it apart.
And one thing just on Lin's note, we noticed that a lot of people from outside Australia use a lot of the language games that we've got on Splash. So things like Letter Planet is a very popular one. So learning about sounds made, with CH and, TH and those sorts of things. So India is very popular, Taiwan, Korea. We do have some access from Japan as well. So all those interactives are being used in that manner.
Thank you. And Mark's just typed up a comment there. Very interesting. I agree. It's been a fascinating show. I've enjoyed having a chance to talk about ABC Splash. I hope some teachers get the cue now and dive in and understand what a valuable resource that the ABC has put together. And it's nice to see the investment in our children and as much part of their future by building on all the good things that you've done in the past. Thank you. And I pass on to the beautiful Amanda.
Well, it's been really fascinating for me to watch the evolution of the site and its resources since it first started. And so congratulations, Annabelle, to you and your team who've been working on this. It's been really exciting. I'm loving the mix of different types of resources. So the fact that it's not just here's videos from ABC or here's some lesson ideas, you've got that article kind of focus to engage the audience and loads of games and interactive things as well, which are really fun. I may have been slightly distracted during this Hangout playing with the new Goblin one a little bit. But I will do that later. I'll put that on the list to follow up and play with later on. But it's really great where you're at. I understand that vision of the worksheet-free utopia, and I think you've made fabulous progress.
Yeah, we're getting there, and I hope you get to the stage where you win a belly lint sandwich in Goblin. Goblin.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, well, thanks so much, guys. I've had a great time.
Thank you very much, and I apologise for all the technical problems that we've had, but I encourage everyone to join us in a future ACCE Learning Network Hangout. We'll have one planned after the term break, and we've got some interesting ones planned with some of the national conferences and some of the state conferences. So please stay tuned. Keep a look on our website, which is at acceln.wikispaces.com, and you can also join our community, and that is the ACCE Learning Network, and we'll be able to circle you some of the events as they're coming to be.
Yep.
So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you all next week.
And also you can view all of our past recordings on our Wikispaces page as well, so you can relive these fun moments. See you all after Easter.
Bye all.